What's up, podcast peeps? Welcome to another episode of the Age Groupies Podcast, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Mike Ergo, and along with my co-host, Lindsay Hiken, we're here to talk to you about all things related to endurance sports from an amateur athlete perspective, about living that multi-sport lifestyle, and to share the other random thoughts that pop into our heads. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have any questions, comments, topic ideas, hit us up. Email agegroupies@gmail.com. And if you enjoy the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Today, our guest is Melissa Urie, or Mel, who I caught up with recently at Ironman 70.3 Superfrog down in Imperial Beach near San Diego. Mel redefines endurance and what the human body is capable of doing. She's completed multiple UltraMan triathlons, multiple Ironman triathlons. But let's talk about this UltraMan thing. That's even more insane. The UltraMan triathlons, which are 3-day stage races that start with a 6.2-mile swim and a 90-mile bike ride on day 1. Day 2, you get to wake up to a 171.4-mile bike ride. And then, on day 3, a 52.4-mile run to the finish line. Not to stop there, she completed the Epic 5, which is a race that involves doing 5 iron distance triathlons on 5 Hawaiian islands in 5 days. Mel's heading into an even more insane long distance triathlon called Uberman that'll swim the Catalina Channel and ride basically all over Southern California and run the entire Badwater course, ending at Mount Whitney. You'll hear us get into it, talking about kilometers and miles. She doesn't know miles. I don't know kilometers. Just know that it's really far. I'll put the links up so you guys can check out all these distances, along with links to her blog and everything else. So I had a really great conversation with her, and I think most of you will agree as you pick up your jaws off the floor hearing about her accomplishments, and then being inspired by how an everyday athlete went from being an amateur swimmer to crushing ultras, one Vegemite sandwich at a time. All right, now let's get to the show. Anyways, Mel, welcome to Age Groupies. Thank you for being a part of our show. I really appreciate you taking the time to just hang out and talk about all the crazy stuff you're doing.
Yeah, no problems. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we met down at Superfrog. A few weeks ago, and you coming through registration. I was just volunteering there, helping out with one of the things I'm doing with Ironman. And I remember you said, I asked, it sounded like you flew in for this race, and you said, no, this one's just a warm up. I got something else going. So I made you tell me about Uberman, and then I figured, okay, if she's doing this and it seems like she's not scared to death of this, there's definitely have some kind of habit in this sport. And so I immediately internet stalked you and saw that you've done all kinds of crazy shit. And then I asked, hey, can I take a picture with you? And this is later on. First reaction when I asked to take a picture, what were you thinking?
I was like, why?
Yeah. Who is this other weirdo?
This is really weird. I'm like, we just had a conversation, we just had a chat, it was really lovely, and you've walked away and you've come back. The first thing you've asked, can I take a picture? I'm like, what's happened between times?
The internet.
Yeah. Yes, the internet happened.
Yeah, so I got to look up on the internet all kinds of stuff you talked about for a while, stuff you might be tired of talking about, things like UltraMan, Epic 5, all kinds of races that you've done. And so I want to ask, first of all, how did you get into the sport? How did you get into like endurance sports in general?
Yeah, so I started triathlon in 2000, and I went and saw one of my friends do a triathlon. I was kind of doing a bit of a health kick, time to get fit, time to, lose weight, all of those kind of normal things. And I saw a friend do a triathlon. I'm like, that looks really fun. I really want to try that, but I'd never run. Like, I had no running background whatsoever. Didn't run in school, didn't really think that there was any point in running, thought it was stupid. So I started by doing a couple of fun runs, which was really, really cool. And then what did I do after that? Then I started doing triathlons, and I found the longer that I went, the more fun that I had. So I realized after the first season, I did a couple of the, little baby enticer distance races. And I noticed that my swim was always average, reasonably okay. I reasonably biked okay. And then I was always really, really slow on the run. So I was like, okay, well, let's focus on the run. Let's do a bit more work on that. And I did a half marathon. And I'm like, that was even more fun. And then I heard about Ironman, and because one of my friends was doing it, and I was like, okay, what's that? I want to do that. And then I did a few Ironmans. I'm like, okay, so what else is there? And found out about UltraMan through reading Rich Roll's book, and went, okay, that's where it's at. That's what I want to do. And that was 2014. I did my first UltraMan after I found out about it 4 years earlier, but I said to myself, I'm like, well, you don't really have the sporting history to be able to train and get through this race and actually effectively be able to do it. So, let's take a bit of time, let's build up your endurance, and then start tackling the longer distance. And
that one, can I ask you how much of it? Yeah. Well, first of all, most people see Ironman as kind of like that's where you get, and there's no farther really.
Yeah.
They're kind of good hanging their hat on 140.6, but it sounds like there's some psychopaths like yourself who look at it and say, yeah, well, what's beyond that, and what's beyond that? But signing up for your first UltraMan, how much of that, the doubt of or holding off, was like the imposter syndrome, and how much of it was just the practicality of knowing where you were physically?
It was more knowing where I was physically more than imposter. Imposter didn't really come so much until I was more at the start line and just going, wow, what am I doing? But also I have this thing where I don't believe it unless I prove to myself that I can do it. So what I'd done the year before in 2013 is I'd gone and raced over in Germany in Challenge Roth. And then initially my plan was to go and fly directly to New York and do Ironman New York, but that was cancelled that year. So some of my friends were over in France doing a cycling tour, watching the Tour de France. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go and do that with them. And I didn't really research that much about that cycling trip. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. There'll be a little bit of riding. There'll be lots of tour watching. It'll be really fun. But what I didn't realize was actually really hardcore riding, doing lots of long days in the saddle, and then watching a little bit of the tour.
Oh, okay.
I did Ironman, and then 2 days later I was climbing up Duez. But at the same time, that really provided me with the confidence of, yes, you can. You can back up riding 5 days, doing all of these huge mountains in France, and be okay and survive. And so I was like, okay, well, if I can do this, then I'll be able to get through UltraMan. So that really provided me with the confidence. And when I was training as well, I did a 60-kilometer run to prove to myself, yes, you will get through the run distance. So for me, I have to do it to know that I can do it, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, because there's some, up until that point, it's just abstract.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just, and to see if you can do it versus if you can't. Yeah. Well, so listeners of our show, we have, a few people who are in the Ironman world, and a lot of people who are into trail running and, various distance triathlons. So can you break down what the distances are for UltraMan?
Yes. So I talk in kilometers.
Oh, that's fine.
So, yeah. Okay.
I can translate.
Yeah, good. So day one is a 10-kilometer swim and a 145-kilometer bike ride. You've got 12 hours to do the whole day and 6 hours to do the swim. And then day two is 275-kilometer bike ride. And then day three is a double marathon. So it's 84 Ks.
Okay. So for those of us who still use the imperial measurements, that's a 6.2 mile swim. That's easy because everyone runs 10K. And then you're doing a 171.4 mile bike and then double marathon. So the next day, and that's but you're adding a 90-mile bike that first day.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so it's not just one sport a day. Yeah. And then the third day, double marathon, 52.4.
Yeah. Correct.
So, and your first one was UltraMan Canada?
Yes.
And so I think I've looked on there. There's Florida, Canada, Australia, Hawaii. Are there any others I'm missing? Arizona now?
Arizona's starting next year. Australia is no longer an official within the UltraMan family, although it still holds the UltraMan name. And there's quite a few others now, like not within the UltraMan. It's kind of like Ironman versus Challenge versus independent races. So
Right.
there's a bunch of different ones, but the ones that are within the UltraMan family, you do one and then you can qualify to go to Hawaii. That's Canada, Florida, and then it'll be Arizona next year.
What's so for those of us who haven't got to that ultra distance, I know when I first saw people doing Ironman, that was just beyond my comprehension. So I can imagine people listening to this and just kind of their eyes glazing over or just not being able to relate.
Yeah.
So where did you come from? Where did you go from, okay, this is just a theory or something that, just Greek gods and goddesses do, to this is actually a possibility and I will physically probably be able to finish this and then finish it?
I think, the swim for me is like, that wasn't really much of a concern because I have a swimming background. I've always swum for fun and like everything. That wasn't really the concern. It was always the run. Like I'd done a couple of long distance bike rides previously. Like when I was first starting to get into triathlon, there's a couple of rides around Melbourne where I'm from in Australia where you'd ride 210 kilometers around like Port Phillip Bay where Melbourne is. And then there was another one the year after I did, which was 250 kilometers. So for me, it wasn't really so much about that distance. It's more the run. As I said, like I did a 60 kilometer run and then I'm like, okay, yep, I'll be able to get through that distance. That'll be okay. I think I put a lot of trust in my coaches. The coach I had at the time, I said to him, do you think I'll be able to do this? And he said, yes, you will. And I'm like, okay, I'll be able to do it then. So I put a lot of faith and support and trust into the people that I have in my circle really. And if they have the belief, then I get a lot of strength from that as well. And yeah, just through my training, I'm one of those people, you give me a program and I will complete it 100% unless something very, very bad goes wrong.
Unless you lose a leg or something.
Yeah, correct. In saying that, my build up to Canada was less than ideal and I did break a couple of bones. So that was not great.
Still, you kept going.
Yeah, of course. I'd set the goal, I'd put it out there and I'm like, well, there's nothing that's going to get in the way. This is a 4-year dream that I'm going to achieve. So let's just, do as much as we can to be able to get to the start line as healthy as I can. So
that belief in the coach is huge.
Absolutely.
Especially if you haven't done it before, because, if you haven't gone those distances, and a lot of people, you're not going to, do that full distance most likely before you actually do the event. So it's still kind of theoretical. And I remember having that with my coach, be like, I've never done an Ironman before. And I trained up with him for a year to do one because it just seemed like, I don't know, we'll see. But that belief from the coach was huge.
Oh yeah. And like I've, my coach at the moment, I go to her and I'm like, oh, by the way, I've got this race I want to do. And she's like, oh geez, what do you want to do now? Again, like we have that relationship of like, I trust that you will be able to get me to the start line in a best possible shape to be able to get through this event, whatever I'm aiming for at that time. So yeah, I feel like if you don't have that relationship, then you need to find someone that you do have that with, because that's just essential.
Yeah. The mental game, which I definitely want to get into, and is so huge. And you probably know that better than most people. So can you explain one of the bigger accomplishments you had in the sport that everybody seems to know about, is the Epic 5. And for people who don't know, and you might be tired of talking about this by now.
No,
okay.
I love it.
Tell us what the Epic 5 is and what it entails.
Yes. So Epic 5 is 5 Ironman distances in 5 days. So you do one after one each day in 5 different islands of Hawaii. So you start in Kauai and then you go to Oahu, Molokai, Maui, and then finish on the Big Island.
So for those of us who think a 2 transition triathlon is a logistical nightmare, this puts that to shame.
Yes. It's so funny, like logistical stuff. Like I talk to people about Uberman that I'm doing this year and they're like, oh my God, logistics so hard. I was like, there's no plane flights. This is easy.
It's the same body of land.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, like it was incredibly tough to try and figure out. I mean, with the race entry, they organise all your flights and your accommodation each day, which I'm so thankful that we don't have to do that as well, because we had to organise the hire car each island. But the main logistical problem was for my crew, really. Like I had the easy part. I was swim, bike, run, eat, sleep every day. They're the ones that had to build bikes, break down bikes, pack the car, repack, make sure everything's in the right spot so we had to get on a flight, because we had a few things taken off us when we were going to the first flight because we didn't realize you can't carry peanut butter and carry on and just all these things. And then making sure that you know where everything is in the car each day, putting it back in the same place. You can't just throw everything in there and go, we'll deal with it later, because I absolutely love to know where that is. So yeah, it was absolutely incredible, and my success in that race was completely due to my crew. They were amazing.
So I'm thinking of I thought through some of the logistical, challenges with this race, but so your crew has to, rent a car on every single island, there, and okay, and they're, and unlike the smaller races or like Ironman and below, the course is open, so you don't have courses closed, and you don't have aid stations set up by other volunteers. It's all your own support. So you're bringing all your stuff, and all your friends are bringing it.
Yeah. So it's like UltraMan, where you don't have aid stations, you have a support crew car, and they basically leapfrog you riding past if you need to stop, and then they'll jump back in the car, drive up the road a bit further, stop, do it all again, and do that for the whole course. And in the swim, we had paddlers that were next to us when we're doing the swim as well. So it's actually really cool because if you get a flat tire, we always bring spare wheels. So I didn't have to change any of my flats, which was amazing.
Oh, awesome. They just quick release on and off.
Yep. Correct. And then they sort it out. And then, if I need to swap wheels back or, whatever I need to do, then they'll sort all that out for me. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like I have a traveling mechanic if I have any dramas. Like my husband's a bike mechanic. So
oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
You married well for this sport.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So no, it's really cool. And you get, and then, I love having people running with me. So, my crew will all, swap out as they go and, come and run along. And then it's a really nice time just to chat with them and, say, hey, how was your day? What did you get up to today? And yeah, it's really, really fun. I really enjoy that.
It seems like these distances too. And I want to ask you more about the different islands and that, but as I'm thinking, the ultra distance and something like Epic 5, what are the bigger differences between that and like Ironman? Because I'm thinking this sounds like much more like a team sport, almost like, you have professional car races where you have like a pit crew who's there around you, making sure that you're fed, your body's working, your bike's working and everything, versus like an Ironman where it's just like you're out there and people see you at the finish line.
Yeah, it's very, very different. Firstly, the numbers are tiny compared to at UltraMan we have 40 people doing it, and at Epic 5 there was 10. So, and then Uberman I'm doing, there's going to be 3 of us. So it's like the numbers.
3, yeah.
Yeah. Like the numbers are drastically reduced compared to Ironman where you've got 2,000, 3,000, however many people, and it's very much about camaraderie amongst the athletes and the crews. So they always say, if you see an athlete with problems, stop and help them. Like, doesn't matter if they're your athlete or not, outside assistance is encouraged in that way. So, in UltraMan Hawaii last year, there was another athlete that was quite close by and he got a flat tire. So my crew was like, here, have a wheel, keep going. We'll sort it out. We'll figure it out with your crew. Just go, just keep moving.
God, that is so cool.
It is, oh my God, I love that part of it. Like that part is just absolutely incredible. And crews have problems. Like crews get flat tires on their bikes, they get on their cars, they get lost, whatever. And so if you have an athlete that hasn't seen their crew for a while, you're like, okay, what do you need? Nutrition, water, drinks, whatever. We'll help you out. We'll get in contact with your crew. You just keep moving. So it's all about getting the athletes to the finish line in whatever way, with whoever way, helping them basically. So
that's something that's
it's incredible
that I love about the endurance sports is, and I see that, in the distances I'm doing too, to some degree, where we're like, there are people who are trying to win, but that doesn't necessarily stop them or other people from encouraging other people that they're competing against along the way. There's something about, okay, the individual finishing, but more about the fact that we're all getting together to do something like this. It's like pulling each other along, something, whatever that is. I love that part of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's amazing. And I mean, there is like probably maybe half a dozen people who are there wanting to win, and everyone else is wanting to complete. So it's really cool in that way. And everyone encourages each other. Like, you won't have anyone just kind of going, oh, I don't want you to finish. Like everyone's there to help each other out. It's really quite nice.
What, we're talking about the mental game then. So where does your mind go? And I heard you talk about meditation to help you focus on understanding why you might be having certain feelings and be able to figure out what you can do about it and what you can let go.
Yeah.
Where does your mind go, and how does it get dark? Does it get distracted? Do you think of off the wall things as you're going? Because these races are multi-day events in a lot of cases.
Yeah. I think about lots. One of the common things that I do is I sing songs in my head. That's one of the main things that I do when I'm training, when I'm racing, when I'm doing anything. One thing I found quite on in my endurance career was that I don't like to try and push away negative thoughts. If anything, if I'm going through a dark patch, I don't force myself out of it, because I find that actually takes more energy than what it's worth. So I just kind of sit with it and go, okay, where's this coming from? What's going on? Most times it's because I need to eat something that I'm feeling a little bit low. So, that's always my go-to. Do I need to eat something? Do I need to drink something? Am I, just low in glucose, whatever? But at the same time, I think of anything and everything. Your brain goes very, very strange places. And sometimes, I'll look around and go, wow, I am in the most amazing place in the world right now. I'm getting to do this. My life's pretty freaking awesome. So, just be grateful for where you're at, grateful for.
That's so cool when you talk about.
That's one of the main things.
You talk about just noticing the unpleasant or negative thoughts. I think that's so cool, because there's such a temptation or a belief that we have to push them away and not feel them, but you're right, there's something about the mental energy it takes to resist what's already happening, as opposed to just noticing it as, oh, this is a sign, or like with a detached kind of curiosity, oh, what is this about? I can vibe with you on singing songs. I think my last Ironman, I sang one of the songs from Frozen, Disney's Frozen, for the entire bike ride.
Yes.
I didn't choose it. It just showed up and I kept singing it.
No, so. I never choose my songs. They just happen to come. Like sometimes I try to, and it doesn't work.
Exactly. There's a certain thing about just going with whatever shows up and saying, all right, here we are.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So a lot of myself, yourself, a lot of our listeners and committed relationships, how do you make time for training, and how do you have that conversation with your partner so you guys are on the same page and there's not like a resentment or a confusion or hurt feelings?
Yeah, that's hard. That's a really hard balance. I mean, when I first met my husband, we were at an Ironman race. We were both doing the race, so it's like, well, this is life.
Yeah, he
So
kind
we
of gets
do,
it, and at least from because
yeah,
he's trained and done them.
yeah, exactly. So that I find is very, very helpful. So he understands. I mean, we like quite early on, I think it was when I was training for Canada, I'd be home and I'd be exhausted and I'd be like, all right, well, I just want to go to bed at 7:30 at night or whatever time it was. And my husband ended up saying to me, he's like, look, I know that you're really tired, but can you actually try and at least stay up a little bit later so we can actually have a bit of time together, even if that's just sitting on the couch, not even talking and watching TV. It's just actually physically being present with each other.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was working shift work as well. So, it wouldn't be uncommon to go 2-3 days without seeing each other because of just shift times and training times and whatever. So we ended up, and we joke about it now, but, that I've got a bedtime of, I have to be up at least until 8:30. That's my bedtime.
I can
which,
relate.
Which, is actually really nice. And it feels really sweet that he was like, no, I actually do want to see you. I want to spend time with you. So that's good. We don't train together because, we're different speeds and, he's got other cycling goals at the moment. So we don't really ever spend time with that. But I do make an effort of trying to, like get my training done or, be home of an evening. I'm not doing shift work anymore. So that's actually been really helpful to now just, be home of a night time to have time together. So it is a balance. We don't have it right. I will absolutely admit that, we do have times when, we're just like, actually saying, can we actually have a date night? I don't know. What's your training? One thing that he does though is if it's my birthday or, he wants to do something, he'll contact my coach and say, hey, can you give Mel a day off so I can do something or a night off or something?
Oh,
So
wow. That's a really cool plan.
Cool. Yeah. And he's got that relationship with my coach that he can do that. And she understands, like, she's a triathlete as well and her husband is. So, they kind of get it. She's done ultra racing. So yeah, it's really, really cool in that way that he's able to do that. So I just have to go and plug my phone in. I realized I forgot to charge it. So I'm just going to go for a walk and go and plug it in so we can keep talking.
Yeah, no worries. I'm enjoying looking at the scenery behind you.
It's getting quite light up here now.
I know we've taken this podcast so far from dark into light.
Yes.
What are some of the habits you built up that help you stick to a difficult training plan and put in a lot of volume and training? I mean, I heard you talk about meditation before, so you can tell us about that and how that helps you, and maybe what else you do that helps you, I don't know, be in this sport that seems unthinkable.
Oh, I know. I love meditation. I've done it for a bunch of years. I use the app Headspace, and I find that's really good because I love not having to think about extra things. Like
God,
in my
I
life,
hear you there.
Like in my life, there's so many things I have to do and, think about all the time and, high stress environment sometimes. So if I just have somebody me sit and think about this, be quiet, be still, focus on this. I'm like, yep, done. I can do that. Amazing. It takes out of my brain. So I find that really calms me and focuses me and that really helps. And also, that kind of helps to try and take away that focusing on when something's going wrong and, kind of takes that witnessing aspect of, if I'm feeling something or thinking something and I'm like, okay, this will pass. This is not permanent. This is not a permanent spot that I'm in at the moment. How I've built a lot of routine in my life. I remember once, I can't even remember what training session it was about. My coach had written something about, like, don't think about it, just do it. And I actually translated that into when my alarm goes off in the mornings, don't think, just do. So, and now when my alarm goes off, I don't allow myself to lie in bed.
Right. And think about why you're getting up and how you can
wake my
sleep in.
husband up. So
yeah.
yeah. So like they won't let me sleep in anyway because they're going to want food. But at the same time, I plan things down to have maximum amount of sleep, maximum amount of rest. So if I don't get up at that time, the training's not going to get done. And I'm the kind of person that you give me the training, I will do it no matter what. I just have to get it done. So I do that. I prepare everything the night before as much as possible. Like I'll, get my clothes out. I'll get everything out and organized. So then I don't have to worry about,
fumbling around in the dark in the morning when your brain's not probably 100%. That's a huge one.
About organizing anything in the morning. It means, you have an out. You have I just can't find my shoes. Oh, I can't.
Right. And then you have plenty of time for your mind to think of what reasons not to do training.
So no, that's kind of my main things that, just getting organized the day before. And also, I work with accountability. Like if my training program's been given to me, then I do it no matter what. I always kind of feel like my coach has put in all this effort to give me my training. So I feel like I need to respect that and just do it. So that's the other thing that I really work with. And I mean, I will emotionally beat myself up quite significantly if I miss a training session. So it's actually not really worth putting myself through that. May as well just do the session and then deal with whatever afterwards as well. So yeah,
that kind of reminds me of a Tony Robbins way of looking at things. That the pain of not doing it is going to be worse than the pain of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go back to Epic 5 for a second. You start off in Kauai, is that right?
Yes.
And you get your team crewing for you. What's the experience like of doing, 5 Ironman distance triathlons in 5 days and 5 islands?
It was so cool. That is, even though,
one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's funny because most people are like, oh my God, that sounds like a nightmare. That sounds, really hard. I'm like, but it was it was amazing. Because I guess when I first read Rich Roll's book and I found out about UltraMan, he also wrote about Epic 5, and at the time I was just like, no chance, no way in hell, that's way too big, too much. And then the idea just kind of sat in my mind for a while, and I was like, actually, yeah, maybe. So for me, I plan races a couple of years out. So when I finally got to the start line, finally jumped in, started the swim, I was like, wow, this is actually happening. This is, this is pretty amazing. And you start off, athletes are standing around, and it was just really beautiful. And, we had all the staff and our crew there, and everyone was just so excited. And, I was the only female amongst a bunch of guys doing it. And, everyone was just really, because I was the second female to ever attempt to do it. So everyone was just really pumped for that initially. And so I kind of had a lot of support from everybody at the start. And it was just incredible. I think the biggest thing for me on day one was I always know that I'm going to finish what I started, because I'm just too stubborn to stop and quit no matter what happens. Sometimes to my detriment. Right. But it was more about how am I actually going to be able to do this? Like, how do I pace it? And I just didn't know the answer to those questions. I was like, I don't want to go too hard. For me, I just have to get there in as best shape as possible. So let's just, try and minimize damage as much as I can. But, does that mean I should walk more than I run? How fast should I go? I don't really know. So none of those questions were really answered until I woke up on day 2 and my body had felt like I'd done a big training day. And I was like, oh, I know this feeling. I can do this. No problems at all. And then I got the confidence of, this will be fine. We'll get this done.
That's a good point. Cause I was hearing you on Rich Roll's podcast, you guys talk about you don't want to push it too hard, because it's not a single day event. You have to do this 4 more times. But the longer you take, the longer you're out there, the less time you have to sleep and eat and shower and all that stuff. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was a balance that, and I don't know, I don't think I would really do anything differently if I had tried to do it again. which I don't really have plans to. I'm like, done that race, tick, what's next?
Yeah, I get it. You tick that
yeah.
box. Practical question, what were you eating? What's your nutrition plan for a race like that?
Yeah. Oh God. Basically eat everything that you can tolerate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about, because you're never going to be able to replace the amount of calories that you're losing when you're doing the race. So it's about eating as much as possible. So what was I having then? I was having like Cliff Bars. I was using gels. I was using a lot of sandwiches. Being an Australian, love Vegemite. It's one of my secret race nutrition things because it's salty. It's a different flavor. It's not sweet, and I just love the taste of it. So put that on, white bread sandwich, cut the crust off, easy to digest. It's perfect.
They'd take your citizenship away if you didn't eat Vegemite at some point during this race, I'm guessing.
They really would. They really would. They wouldn't let me back in the country.
Yeah.
So I was doing that. I was having like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I was using like things like Nutella, croissants, just basically anything, potato chips, Coke. I had juice at one stage. When we're on Molokai, I was just saying to my crew, I was like, I don't want any more Cliff Bars. Like, I'm sick of them. I've had them for 2 days. And they're just like, well, Molokai is a tiny island. There's one shop that closes about 3 p.m. or something, and then that's it. Like, there's nothing else you can get. And I said to him, I was like, look, I know that there's not really much here, but when we get to Maui, can we please try and find some different food, because I'm really sick of eating the same thing over and over. And so they just fed me sandwiches all day. And then they said to me later, they said, like, you had 3 loaves of bread that day. And I was like,
oh my God.
That's all I wanted. That's all I could have. And then we got to Molokai, and, we could get some fruit, like some, watermelon and pineapple and like banana bread, and just, it's basically just eat whatever you can tolerate, whatever your stomach handles, and just get those calories in. So
if you feel like you're getting close to throwing up, just like back off a little bit and then
Yeah, pretty much. Although I found with Epic 5, because the intensity was lower, I didn't have any stomach problems. Whereas I still haven't cracked that code for UltraMan yet. I've done 3 of them and I've vomited every time. So, I haven't figured that one out.
Time-honored tradition at this point.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I know what it's like to finish a day-long race and just get angry or just be about to throw up, probably both of those at the same time, looking at a gel or a bar, just get that shit away from me.
Yeah.
But you're doing this for five days. So what's the order of them? Kauai is the first. Big Island is the last.
Yeah, and Hawaii, Molokai, Maui, then the Big Island.
Okay, so you're going like in the order from like east to or west to east, is that right?
Correct. Yeah. Which works really well. I mean, Molokai is the one that had most kind of unpredictable weather, because I know the previous year they had a storm that was chasing them, so they couldn't land in Molokai. Then they had to land back in Oahu, and then it was quite difficult to fly in and out of that island. Like, thankfully, we didn't have really, really bad weather like that. But because I was talking to a local on the Big Island beforehand, and she's like, I don't understand why they don't do Molokai early. That's a really hard island to get in and out of. It'd be better to do it then. But then when I was doing it, I was like, no, I completely understand why it's in this order. I mean, it's not, kind of go furthest out to, finish in the Big Island, go left to right. But also you need to do Oahu early, because that island is so busy. If I was to do that any more fatigued, then it would have been really, really full on. Because I remember when I was talking to you, I said, I found Oahu really stressful just because of the amount of people and the amount of cars. And, I still remember the funniest thing is, it was probably late afternoon by the time I started the marathon, and I was running down past Waikiki Beach with my husband, and all these people looking at us going, what are you doing? Like,
what's your deal?
The beach, bikinis, and we're, just trotting along the beach. And we're like, okay, you're kind of weird.
Yeah, you're killing our vibe. We're trying to relax here.
Yeah, exactly. This is not time to exercise. So I found that island like really, really busy. And then it was such a contrast where, there's like half a dozen locals and they're all kind of looking at you, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, just, do what you do. That's fine. No problems.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
just,
can see that with Oahu, just you'd want that early on just to be mentally sharp because of all the stoplights, all the people, all the traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What's the finish line
I wouldn't want
like?
to do that with any if you'd have like maybe one or two staff members there going, okay, you're done. Cool. See ya tomorrow.
That's what the first Ironman was like. So I hear the early years, like, hey, are you so and so? Okay, yeah, you're done. That.
Yeah. I mean, like the finish line on the Big Island, there was a few more people around and they had a little finish tape and, we finished down at the pier. So by the time I finished, it was kind of like the sun had come up. It was maybe like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning or something because I'd gone through the night. And so that was really cool. So, there was a few people around and, like I had my whole crew with me and I'd had a couple of friends who'd come over to Maui. One of my friends, P-Man, he did the swim on both Maui and the Big Island with me. So that was awesome. And, him and his partner, Ingrid, they both jumped in and crewed on those couple of days as well to help my crew out. And so I had like everybody, walking up Alihi Drive with me and, there was lots of tears and hugs and celebrations. So that was amazing. But I mean, at the end of every other day, it was just like, all right, see ya. Take your time. Yep, you're done. Awesome. I mean, the actual finish line on the Big Island, that was really, really special. That was really magical. So yeah, that was amazing, but very, very low key. Probably half a dozen people knew actually what you were doing. So that was
and that seems like maybe one of the biggest contrasts to the shorter distances is that the other, like, Ironman puts on like a huge production, huge event. You've done them, and this is maybe not the antithesis to it, but it's so low key that you're not getting the recognition that you would. It's not out there. The public doesn't necessarily know. They maybe see a few people cheering and like will ask you about it. So after, what's that experience like? And because you've done both, and what do you like about it? I don't know. Walk us through the difference of experiencing them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget the finish line of my first Ironman. Like that was amazing. I had friends in the crowd. They're all yelling my name and cheering and everything, and like having the big lights and the roar of the music and the crowd and the announcer and everything. Like that's really special. That's amazing. And when I did Challenge Broth, like you run around, I think it's like 2/3 of a stadium, and that's just mind blowing. Just the wall of noise that you run past. So I mean, like that is. I don't really feel like you can contrast that to finishing ultra, where there's a few people standing around like cheering and clapping for you, but everyone else kind of looking, going, what's going on here? Whereas Ironman, everyone knows because you can't not. you can't not with the sound.
You have to be deaf and blind.
Correct. And I'm sure someone's trying to explain what's going on to you. So I mean, it's very, very different, but also I think like if you finish an ultra with the big lights and the noise, you just be like, whoa, this is too much, because you've had that really low key vibe the whole time through. Like the finish really fits with what was going on. Like, it's massive and, it's pretty incredible what you've done, but also you don't want that, huge celebration. You want the people there who you've just gone through these few days with, and they understand it, they get it. Your other athletes are around. Like I remember the first
that makes sense.
UltraMan in Canada. Like I had like my now quite good friends that I'd met during the race. She met me at the finish line. Big and like the race director's there to give everybody a hug and give you your medals personally. So it's
that's awesome.
It's got a very personal approach to it. I mean, they know every single athlete that's racing. They know their names. They know their stories and everything. So it's really cool. And then, at the awards, every single athlete has the opportunity. Well, they do. They get up and, make a speech. Generally, it's time limited now because people would talk for, hours if they could.
Exactly.
Everyone has their chance to have that. Yeah. So it's really cool. I really love the the way that it all works and the vibe that it all has.
That's
so
fitting.
It's pretty amazing. But really can compare the two.
Yeah, they're two different things.
Yeah.
Different things. It sounds like. What
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Uberman. You're doing that a week from today, and this is different than any other long distance event that I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, people keep saying to me, like, how do you find out about these things? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just in.
You just type in weird, miserable, long distance shit.
Yeah, pretty much. That brings up a lot in Google.
Yeah.
5, where, you know, every day is kind of punctuated by having a flight that you have to take. Uberman is a non-stop event that I'm doing. So it involves the Catalina Channel swim, which is about 33 kilometres, and then you ride, it's roughly 600 kilometres from where you land in LA circle around to get to Death Valley, and then you do the Badwater Run from Death Valley up to the top of Mount Whitney. So that's 214 kilometres. You choose when you sleep and rest and everything, and there's actually no cutoff to it. So it's, you know, the timer starts when you start and then it finishes when you finishes. So yeah, it's gonna be very, very different. And I keep saying to my husband and my crew, I'm like, you know, we're just gonna have to be really fluid with it, and we're gonna have to deal with things as they come up. You know, we can't plan things as much as what we normally do when we're doing these big endurance races. It's just gonna be what it is, and deal with things as they go, and yeah, keep going. I'm actually really, really excited to see how it goes. Like, I know that I work quite well, quite sleep deprived. You know, I proved to myself that at Epic 5, and when I used to do night shift and train stupid long hours of training when I was doing night shift and still survive and, you know, be able to function. So
yeah, no kidding.
It'll be really, really interesting to see how far I can push myself doing this. So yeah, I'm quite excited by it. And it's one of those things, people are like, why are you doing this? How did you find out about this? And I'm like, well, you know, I've always kind of thought swimming the Catalina Channel would be pretty cool. Doing Badwater would be pretty cool. So just, you know, there's an event that puts them together. Let's do that.
Yeah, you can tick both of those boxes in one event.
Correct.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there's 3 of you for this race, the athletes. You're starting together. Is that right?
No. So we can choose when we want to start. I mean, the race director, like, well, it's not technically a race, like it's, you know, a challenge, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. So he's pretty flexible. So he's like, you know, you can choose when you want to start. And one of the guys, because originally we were all going to start at 6 p.m. on the 10th. And then one of the guys was like, oh, the boat that he has can't do that time. And Catalina swimmers all start around midnight. That's kind of the start time for swims. And so I looked at it. I was like, well, if that's when swimmers start, why wouldn't we start at that time? So I'm going to be starting roughly around 11 o'clock on the 9th. And then another guy starting at the 10th at 6 p.m. and another one starting like about an hour before I am. So it would be nice if we all started at the same time, but at the same time, we really have to kind of go with what the boat captains are able to do as well. So it's not all in our control for that.
Yeah, they're right. That's kind of left up to weather and the people, you know, getting you out there.
Yeah.
So is anyone going to be like updating any kind of social media stuff for you so we can track you?
Yeah. So I've got a spot tracker that I'm going to be setting up and putting on my social media. So then it's like what the backpackers use. So you'll have a little dot that you'll be able to follow along a map to see where I am.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when there is reception, when my crew can put things on social media, then yeah, they absolutely will. But I mean, I always kind of preface that to say I'm the number one priority. If things are, you know, like they need to be focusing on what I'm doing, then social media is going to come second. But you know, absolutely, like they'll be able to do as much as they can. So yeah, it'll be really, really cool. But I know that there's patches, especially in Death Valley and the Badwater Run, that there's no reception. So that'll be a lot of just, you know, watching the little dot move along the map to see where I'm at. But the other thing was that I really need to stress to people that if the dot doesn't move for a couple of hours, that's probably because I'm sleeping. It's not because anything's wrong. So
right.
not send messages dress
People are
saying, "Are
worried,
you okay?"
see like buzzards circling around overhead and eating. Yeah. Now maybe she's taking
Yeah.
a nap.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. I'm okay. Yes.
So I know that I heard on Rich Roll's thing, and I know your handle on Instagram is Ranga Mel. So
Yes.
that's what they call people like us in Australia,
Yeah.
Rangas.
Yeah.
What does that mean? How's that show up?
So it was on a comedy TV show that it's called Summer Heights High. If anyone wants to look at
Oh,
it,
love that. Oh my
yeah,
God, it's so good.
yes, yes. So that's where it came from. Like it's as I said on Rich Rolls, it's an insult for redheads, and it relates us to orangutans. So that's where the Ranga part comes from.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, and so yes, now it makes sense. Yeah.
You know what I love about that too? Like
yeah,
Australians, and it's something similar as I have a military background in the Marine Corps. We're the branch that gets a lot of insults, and then we take it and we claim it as our own and love it. So it sounds like
100%. Yeah, that's exactly what's happened here. Yeah. So like a lot of redheads now just call themselves orangans because they're like, man, just embrace it. Like whatever. There's no point fighting it. Yeah.
I think I like that rolls off the tongue a little better than ginger.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Totally.
Ranga. All right, I'm gonna adopt that too.
Do it. Yeah.
Besides your blog, besides your social media accounts, which I'll put in the show notes here, what else can we do to support you or track you or get in contact with you and figure out what you're doing next?
Yeah, so I guess my main socials that I use is Facebook, just my name, and Instagram. Those are kind of my two main places. And then my blog. I haven't done my race reports for my last 2 races. I'm going to be doing that this week, so they'll be up there shortly. If I haven't done a race that month, then generally I try and update it once a month. Then I'll just write what I'm thinking about at that point in time, or where I'm at in my recovery or my race build or whatever else is going on for me at that point in time. So those are probably the two places. The other thing that I haven't really been promoting as much as I would have liked to, I've just, life's taken over a bit. But I have joined up with a charity this year called Water for a Village. It's a friend who works in Tasmania. She goes over to Ethiopia generally once a year, a couple of times a year, and goes into the villages and helps them build wells so they can get access to water. So it's pretty cool. Amazing. Yeah, she's absolutely incredible. Like she'll, just go and hike into these really remote villages that, probably have never seen a white person in their lives. And, they'll hear about her and then she'll engage the local communities. And then, get them to build the wells, learn how to maintain them and everything. So then they're all completely self-sufficient. So she doesn't actually have to, take people in to fix things. If something goes wrong, then they can do it. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I'll send you the link if you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
If people feel
I know
inclined
would love to support you there.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be amazing. I mean, like I haven't set any funding goals or anything. It's more just if you feel inclined, if that's something that you want to support, then that'd be pretty amazing. So yeah,
I think we'd be hard pressed to find anyone who can't get behind providing fresh water to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of figure I'm like I drink so much water in my life. I can understand the importance of it. So yeah,
good point. Before I let you go. One thing I really wanted to ask is, so you do these huge events, and I know you said you did some mental training for like the post-race kind of life, because post-race blues is really big.
Yeah.
What are you doing to prepare for that for Uberman, and what have you done before that works?
So I really thought about that for Epic 5, because at the time I was going to have a break from ultra racing. Didn't really happen. But I really thought about, okay, what is this going to be like afterwards? And I put a lot of energy into that, and a lot of energy into not putting pressure on myself to kind of really bounce back and go for the next thing and, put the next challenge on and, just give myself the permission to rest and recover and not, have to do anything if I didn't want to, spend time with friends and family and everything. And I found just really letting myself that, de-stress, decompress time really helped to not have that, massive high, massive low that some people definitely have, and I have had. So, I think because, for me, before I did Epic 5, not having anything else planned is very, very unusual for me. Like usually I have, the next 2-3 years of races in my head going, okay, let's try and, work towards this. So I kind of knew that was going to be unknown territory for me. So I was like, all right, well, let's, try and give myself as much space as what I need to, be able to sort my head, sort where I'm at. And then I found like, I didn't have that down period. So I didn't really realize that's what I was doing until afterwards, until I kind of reflected back on it and went, okay, that actually, that helped, give myself that space to, just sit with what had happened and reflect on it. And it was actually really, really helpful. So hopefully I'll have that
powerful.
Experience, but how we go. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to check in with you at some point after Uberman is over and hear more about that. I really appreciate you taking time and making time for us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun chatting.
Yeah. So I hope you have plenty of Vegemite for this, and best of luck out there in the course.
Yeah. Thank you.
So there it is. That concludes today's episode of the Age Groupies Podcast with me, Mike Ergo. Really hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we'll have Lindsay back on the show, co-hosting along with me. And you can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay, Hiken, and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to email us at agegroupies@gmail.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, because it really helps us get more exposure while we try to grow this thing. And of course, if you have friends you think you might like the show, please be sure to share it with them. But for now, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Later.